Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
Welcome to episode 3 of The Media Game. My name is Daines. In this episode, we'll be looking at the essential steps you need to get media interview ready. At the end of the day, you've got to really identify the media channels that are right for you and where your audience is going to be playing and listening. There's little point preparing for a TV interview, a radio broadcast, or preparing for a print media interview or online if no one's actually going to be reading or listening at who buys your products or services. So my role is to really guide you how to get through that process. What I encourage you to do is to think really about where do you think people are most likely to read your pieces. And I'm a big believer people read very widely. So it's not just about being in business magazines if you're a business author or you might be a speaker, you could own a franchise. It's about thinking a little broader than that. So what are your passions and interests? Perhaps a lifestyle magazine, perhaps a few podcasts would also make sure you're getting traction across a wide, diverse range of media channels and reaching audiences in different places at different times. A lot of people are very convinced that they particularly want to pursue, say, TV or radio or print. The big thing I would say here is make the journalist job a little bit easier. Clearly, if you're going to go for a TV media interview, you want to make sure that you have thought about the images that they can use. Is there footage? Is there extracts from a film? Is there anything else that you can provide or suggest to the producer that makes it a lot easier for them to get that story up? Similarly, we still need talking heads for radio and we need in print fantastic images. I really believe people often look at the images first and then they'll go and decide whether they're going to read the story. So thinking a little bit about what you can offer to the media outlet will help you when you're pitching to those media channels. It's also about remembering that sometimes that the producer is the best person to chat to, not the host of the TV program, but the gatekeepers, if you like, the people who decide what goes on the program. Similarly with radio, you'll have a network of researchers and writers who actually put together individual programs. And with online and with print, you'll often have editorial coordinators or junior editors who actually filter through the information. So definitely identify who it is you need to pitch the idea to and then come prepared and ready with what you can offer them, when you can do it, and how quickly you can pull together whatever else they may need as well. I often like to think a little bit in avatars. So if I know that my key audience, for example, is female entrepreneurs who might have home-based businesses and might have busy family lives, I might actually think like that when I'm pitching the idea to them and getting them as talent into a media outlet. So I try to actually spend a little bit of time in the headspace of not only the journalist, but the talent that I'm preparing for as well. Understanding their language, understanding what might make sense to them and what matters most. And having some great examples that you can bring to life your story really makes you the journalist's very best friend. So if you can spend a little bit of time on the preparation, when the rubber hits the road, you'll find it a lot easier to get that media interview and to nail it every time. So when you are pitching to journalists, it's about compiling a list, about working out where the priorities are. Sometimes offering an exclusive to one organisation might be just per sector. So you might be offering a TV station, for example, the first run of your story, but then later on they're happy for you to pitch it to radio and maybe online and print. So being really prepared on how you want to strategise is super important. Knowing how long it is until that story is going to come out. So a lot of traditional print magazines, for example, will work 1 to 3 months in advance, whereas daily newspapers and TV and radio are a lot more frequent. So if you can pitch ahead of time, give yourself time, don't wait to the day of the event. Actually booking it into the diaries of those producers and editors will actually really help them know what's coming up and to work out what they need to follow up with you well in advance. It also means that if you do have a media interview flurry of activity, you can perhaps make sure someone else in your business is around to run the day-to-day. So media can be very time-consuming, and when they want to speak to you right now, they mean right now. So making sure that you've cleared the decks and that you are in the right mindset, as well as having the information prepared, will really help you when you are pitching to the media. I'd like to now introduce to you someone who's actually had the experience of building a media profile, and that is Belinda Neil. She's a former police investigator, an author and a keynote speaker, and it's my pleasure to introduce her as my guest on episode 3 of The Media Game. Well, welcome back to The Media Game, and here with me is Belinda Neil, and she's a former police investigator, an author and a keynote speaker who has had a career change and also built a successful media profile. Welcome to The Media Game. Can I please start off by asking you, how did you go from a retired police detective to a media expert?
I think there were 3 things, Amber. First of all, I was fortunate enough to have my memoir published, Under Siege, so my book was published. And as a result of that, I got a lot of media attention because my book, whilst it's an interesting police story, is very focused on post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a hot topic in the media. So I actually got over 40 interviews, and that was across the media, radio, television, print, magazines, online. So I was fortunate in that sense. The second thing was I already had a website set up, so that was already in place. So journalists, the media could go to that, and I had other social media, so they knew how to contact me. And I think the third thing that cemented my position as a media expert was 6 months after my book was published, this country had one of the largest sieges in its history, a large hostage situation. So because of my expertise in that area, the media called upon me again because I'd already had so much exposure. So that really helped because I provided quite a unique perspective, and that cemented my status as a media expert.
That's fantastic. Yes, it can be daunting if you haven't done a lot of media before.
Yes.
And I suppose managing nerves is one of the things that that everyone has to get over. So what areas of expertise do the media predominantly call you over now? I mean, I guess the siege was one thing, and that's a moment in time.
Yes.
You mentioned post-traumatic stress disorder. That seems to be something you're very passionate about as well. I mean, how have you kind of pivoted from one extreme to another in terms of topics? I mean, how do you position yourself in that way?
Sure. Look, generally, I've got an 18-year police career and I was an expert in terms of homicide investigation. However, because of those 2 incidents, because of the major hostage situation, my area of expertise, even though it was an area of expertise in the police force, it's now an area of focus in the media. If there's any sort of hostage situation or siege situation, suicide intervention, any lengthy siege, the media now call upon me. And the second area, obviously, is that post-traumatic stress disorder because I'm an expert in terms of the lived experience.
Yes.
So because of my book, because of my previous media interviews, the media now give me a call.
So it sounds like you've been able to blur both the professional experience and the personal experience, which is probably what the media really, really loves as well, that you can marry the two and bring it to life.
That's exactly right, the lived experience.
So your best-selling book, Under Siege, facilitated you to become a regular spokesperson in the media. How have you really capitalised on that? So once you've had your media experience, what do you do with that?
I think the real benefit in terms of having that initial media experience is I got to meet a number of radio announcers, TV producers, a number of journalists. So I actually got to know them, and I think as a result, I have had phone calls before from researchers in TV studios saying, look, the producer really likes you, can you come in and do this particular thing? So the media get to know you, they get to know you as a person, they get to know how you interview, and if they're happy with you, they will call you back. So I've been very successful in that respect.
Excellent. So it's about a long-term relationship.
It really is.
So
That's
you do
exactly
well, and
right.
they'll keep calling you again and again.
Yes.
So what value has it been for you to do the media? Obviously, there's actually building the profile, but does that translate into other career opportunities for you?
Oh, look, it really does. It's effectively lifted my keynote speaking career off the ground because people who want to book you for conferences, they can see that you can present. You're considered a media expert and they're the sort of people they want to present at their conferences. The second thing is I'm very passionate about my advocacy role in terms of post-traumatic stress disorder. So again, coming across in the media, people recognise you, they recognise your brand, they know you're there for them, and so it's also lifted that profile. And it has certainly helped in relation to book sales.
Absolutely. We're now a best-selling author, which is no mean feat. So finally for this section, what are your must-do tips to prepare for a media interview? What are the things that you just cannot go on air or do a media interview without?
Okay, number one, You always ask the interviewer or the producer for the questions prior to the interview. Now, you won't always get those questions, but just then ask for a general outline of the direction that the interview is going. So that helps you in preparation. That helps with number 2. Number 2 is always know your key message prior to the interview. Extremely helpful. Number 3, always be clear and concise. Never waffle. Otherwise, they're not going to get you back and you don't get your key message.
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.